This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist Evan Thomason.
Welcome on to the First Alert Weather Breakdown. I am meteorologist Evan Thomason. Welcome on to Thursday, and I am back. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to CJ Cartledge, meteorologist CJ Cartledge. I know the past 3 weeks before this week, he really has kind of been dormant. The schedules just haven't meshed for him to be on the First Alert Weather Breakdown. I think he's only been on one before this week. Before this week, he's only been on the First Alert Weather Breakdown once out of the previous 3 weeks. And that was not his fault. As I said, we've been trying to work on First Alert Weather Breakdown about making him and me have about the same amount of time on this First Alert Weather Breakdown. Let's just say this week we finally were able to measure schedules together, and he's definitely been a vital part of the Weather Breakdown podcast this week, hosting Monday through Wednesday. So first of all, big round of applause to meteorologist CJ Cartledge. If you are watching out there, CJ, thank you very much for your help for Monday through Wednesday. I'm taking over, though, for the end of this work week for both today and tomorrow to wrap up your work week. And we got more storms to talk about here in the ArkLaTex. Plenty to break down and enough to get my umbrella tie out. This is something I can show off on the First Alert Weather Breakdown. Look at that closely. That's an umbrella tie, which is pretty cool. I haven't brought this out. Mainly, honestly, these are the perfect conditions for me to bring out this tie, because usually if these storms produce like too much of a severe weather threat, I don't want you, I guess, being distracted per se by my tie. That's not just a plain color. Usually I just choose a plain red or maroon or something like that for a severe weather day, for example. But when we don't have storms, period, I don't want to wear this at all either. So this is kind of the perfect day to wear this, because thankfully I shouldn't say thankfully, but we do have storms again here for the day today, but they aren't bringing too much of a severe weather threat for today and, well, for the next 2 to 3 days. We'll get to that forecast further on in the First Alert Weather Breakdown. First of all, hope you guys are having a great Thursday. Let's get to the rundown for today. We got lots of rain, lots of storms to talk on the local forecast that's coming on up. We also are going to be talking about rivers. We're going to be talking about rivers around the ArkLaTex. Now, this was a big issue back about 3 weeks ago when we had our big major issue of flash flooding. Remember that flash flood emergency in Texarkana? That really triggered lots of flood warnings for most of our rivers around the ArkLaTex. So I wanted to take a look into that because it has been raining recently, and we'll see how exactly that's affecting our river levels heading into the exclusive content for today, which we will go over after a full look at the weather forecast. Again, for those of you watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment because that shows me, hey, you're watching, number one. B, you're just engaged. You want to ask a question and make this a two-way conversation, because sometimes that's better how a podcast works. Look, I love doing this singularly, just myself, but hey, it's like just life. You have someone else to talk to, a friend per se, you have a question, a comment, just let me know in the YouTube chat on KSLA News 12 on our live stream for you there. Anyways, for those of you just sitting back, relaxing on KSLA.com live stream, don't blame you. Grab out the popcorn, whatever snack of choice you have, and it's going to be a good end of the week to sit back and relax indoors with all the rain showers out and about. So let's get into that forecast, shall we? Here's a live look outside at what we're looking at. Gloomy skies, cloudy conditions. Thankfully, there hasn't been a whole lot of rain at all this morning. In fact, I really haven't seen a single rain shower pop up yet on the ArkLaTex on our radar picture. Now, that was me checking that radar picture about an hour ago. And to be fair, I'm still not expecting anything much yet, but we'll see. These are pretty much the conditions up until it rains this afternoon here for the most part around the ArkLaTex. So thankfully, not a whole lot of rain activity for now, but it could easily change later on today. And most of these clouds are hanging low to the ground. Looks like most of our lowest lying clouds have actually cleared up on the Window World camera in Texarkana. If you looked at this earlier on this morning with us, you couldn't even see out this camera because the clouds were blocking the picture entirely. But now it just looks gloomy across Texarkana on our Window World sky cam. So here are our headlines here over the next here for your Thursday. We still have more storms continuing on. I think that's the biggest thing to watch out for here in the ArkLaTex. as our rainy trend continues today, and boy, is it still going to continue, unfortunately, all the way for the next few days, too, into the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, we could be getting a little more toasty around here in the ArkLaTex. We're expected to warm things up with our temperatures here. Temperatures staying fairly moderate for today, similar to that of yesterday, but we're going to take some baby steps past today into increasing those temperatures slowly up more and more up into the weekend to where things could get hot by Sunday and Monday as well. Meanwhile, next work week, we're looking at rain coming back. Yes, coming back. There is expected to be a little small break in the wet weather to where we'll have like a full day or two where we'll have no rain showers, actually, for once. But unfortunately, that's going to be short-lived. Next work week, you can look forward to more showers and storms all around the ArkLaTex. Temperatures currently 72 in Shreveport, 68 in Texarkana, 71 in Natchitoches. I call that nice temperatures. That's nice and comfortable temperatures around. 70 in Magnolia, 64 in Idabel, 70 in Minden. That's about the temperature you want inside your house for your AC. So the fact that we're getting those temperatures outside is nice and enjoyable, so to speak. All right, let's look at the current highs for the day today. 81 in Texarkana, 80 in Foreman. Keep in mind, again, it's just the start of the day, and we're just going to continue to heat things up, even though we do have the cloud cover on top of us. 81 in Carthage, 81 in Marshall, 81 in Shreveport. So high temperatures today increasing about 10 more degrees from what you see out and or what you're feeling out right now. Hard to see the temperatures. 78 in Ringgold, 82 in Natchitoches, 81 for Shreveport. Here is a first alert check to that Doppler radar. We're keeping your first alert mainly about the storms off to our west, which you see a lot of them. In fact, the line of showers and storms, if you notice, is kind of just off to the western edge of the ArkLaTex. Locally, not much. Maybe a little drizzle. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just in case. The tiniest cell looks like right now north of Manny. Another one just east of Natchitoches near Atlanta. That is Atlanta, Louisiana. Besides those little tiny cells that we're seeing there, not much on the first alert Doppler radar at all to watch out for, but plenty to watch out for around Dallas. Watch out for this huge mess. We're getting a huge swath of rain just north of Dallas, in between Dallas and Oklahoma City. That's slowly making its way eastward, and even these severe storms off south of Dallas as of right now are slowly moving east as well. So that's what we're watching out for here at this rate for these storms to come in later on this afternoon. So I think they're going to be hitting afternoon at the afternoon hours at the earliest. So we have a low pressure system to kind of backtrack here just a little bit and go over our full little setup, what we have here, and kind of going into the science of why we've had this rainy pattern stuck on top of us. Yes, it's a little annoying. Sorry if that tone was a little annoying, but look, I just want a sunny day again. Anyways, we got lots of rain in throughout Oklahoma, Texas. There you see that vast swath of moisture and tall cloud tops that you see there with the orange and red that's slowly moving its way into the ArkLaTex. So if you think it's a gloomy, cloudy day now, I mean, the bulk of the moisture and the bulk of the clouds are actually off to our west here for the moment, and they're slowly but surely moving eastward. Overall, we have a low-pressure center, which is being stubborn. It's standing still, almost on top of northern Texas and the panhandle of Oklahoma there, western Oklahoma. And that's allowing, and basically, we have a free-flowing jet stream straight from the Gulf of Mexico into areas just off of the east side of the low-pressure system. And all of that is gathering on to produce more and more rain showers consistently. And that's what we're watching out for again here for the day today. And that low-pressure system is expected to almost stand still all the way through Saturday at least. So more rainy days are ahead on the skyline here for the ArkLaTex. And you see some of that cloud cover again spilling over into the region. So what we're going to do here is going to backtrack and go hour by hour with this. So this updates every hour. Now keep in mind the future track is already starting off with this bunch of showers a little farther westward than the current radar is. So this could actually be sped up a little bit more in time. If you notice, there could be a few little dotted cells way in front of the line, like what we saw earlier around Manny and just east of Natchitoches. That could happen in front of this line throughout the day today, pretty much anywhere across the region. But if you're watching for the main arrival, the line looks like it comes into the ArkLaTex. First of all, it's coming at a snail's pace over here. Even though it is just on our doorstep off to the west side, it's going to be still moving very slowly into the region. It looks like this future track's tracking most of this rain into Texarkana, say around 4 o'clock, maybe 3. And then it moves into Shreveport more towards the afternoon commute, maybe even an evening commute home, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon and evening. And most of the rain could still happen in Shreveport and Bossier all the way until 9, 10 p.m. Meanwhile, we still have the presence of rain, maybe continuing into the late night hours around Natchitoches and Minden, more towards 10 to 11 o'clock before drying up that system. And then maybe a brief shot at rain here for tomorrow morning for your Friday before it looks like we got more cells possibly forming again here for your Friday afternoon and evening. Now, that's the extreme short-term future track. I want to mainly hint on that future track here for the arrival of the systems tonight, because this future track actually indicates that these storms could come a little later in time and could reach Shreveport and Bossier not until like 10 or 11. I do want to say this future track does not update as often, so I would trust the first timing a little more. I'd go more towards 5 to 6 o'clock for the timing of the storms tonight. But what I'd use this future track for is what could we see Friday and Saturday? What could we see then? And this future track pinpoints to a few cells forming late tomorrow afternoon. Looks like around pockets of northwest Louisiana and eastern Texas, particularly around the Natchitoches region. And for your Friday. Then Saturday, we start off dry and cloudy. And eventually that's going to trigger onto some storms here for Saturday afternoon. Just kind of popcorn-type cells where they could form anywhere around the region then before we look to finally dry up after Sunday morning. So that's a kind of look at your future track for you then. Again, just consistent rounds of rain, unfortunately, for the next 3 days. But not a full blanket of rain at all at one time. Also, not looking at anything too severe. Although, that being said, this is from the Storm Prediction Center. This was updated about 2 hours ago. Earlier today, the marginal risk was just way off to the west to only include Dallas and Fort Worth and not include the ArkLaTex. But the Storm Prediction Center has noticed the storms from Dallas and Fort Worth that I just, mentioned to you earlier, just let you see earlier. Those storms are maintaining strength as they continue to head eastward, which is a little bit troublesome for us because the Storm Prediction Center now shows this recent trend in those storms maintaining strength. And they're looking at just the tiniest marginal risk into the ArkLaTex. So essentially, Storm Prediction Center moved the marginal risk literally 2 hours ago into the ArkLaTex. And you see that does include portions of eastern Texas and even a sliver of northwest Louisiana. That does include Shreveport and Caddo Parish, and even the tiniest bit of southwestern Arkansas for you then. Overall, I'm just expecting strong winds from this. I've read what the National Weather Service is looking at, and they're mainly looking at some strong wind gusts pushing through with this rain. So I think it's not just going to be rainy, but it's going to be windy. And you could get a brief damaging wind gust here from the system, which is what they're watching out for with the marginal risk. The marginal risk is the tiniest chance of severe weather here for with the storms coming this afternoon and evening. So regardless, it's going to be rainy. And now that we're piling on more winds on top of that, it's not going to be a fun time to be out and about this afternoon. So plan your trip accordingly and watch out for the rain, especially, again, around the evening commute home. Or if you have any after school or after work activities, watch out because rain could be coming down a good bit. So for the next 3 days, again, this is all the way through the rain that's coming through Saturday. We are expecting rain showers aplenty. That could give us at least an inch, if not 2 inches, all the way through Saturday. That's for the short term. Now, let's talk long term. Again, we do have a little break coming, and most of that's in store on Sunday. I think Sunday's beyond the morning. If you saw back on that future track, beyond the early morning hours, I think the bulk of Sunday is going to be dry, which is going to be nice. A full dry day for the most part. For us to be able to enjoy outdoor activities compared to Saturday, which could actually give us some storms in the afternoon. So Sunday looking better than Saturday. That's my point. Looks like we could stay dry as well into Monday. Tuesday is when we run into problems. Tuesday is when our next system comes on in. And this is going to actually bring us a legitimate chance of severe weather. Look out for those little shades of red that you see there. Most of that could be hitting around the northern half of the ArkLaTex for Tuesday before it rolls into the rest of the region there for Wednesday, and that's going to up the rain total quite a bit. almost 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 inches of rain for areas north of I-30 all the way through Tuesday of next week. And more rain could be coming into the rest of the region as we progress again into Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Then the Storm Prediction Center has put forward a severe weather risk for the storms on Tuesday. Now, this is actually a higher risk than the severe weather chance that we have today, and there really is no severe weather chance that we have for the storms on Friday and Saturday. Tuesday, severe weather chance ramps back up again with the next system. So we do want to keep you first alert about that we have that little mindset here for next week that the severe weather risk could increase more than what we've seen out of this work week. So, yeah, as for the weekend, we'll worry about that early next week, but just something to keep in mind here for the horizon of the tail end of the 7-day forecast. For the weekend, though, Saturday, it's going to be rainy. Sunday, not rainy. I think that 20% rain chance is, again, from the early morning hours, and most of that just kind of looks to be reserved for the northern half of the ArkLaTex. So Sunday is looking better than Saturday. Keep in mind the temperatures, though. 88 is the high on Sunday. It could get up to a high of 90 by Monday. That's after a high of 81 today, and we're looking to cool down in the second half of the work week for you next week. 78 for a high on Wednesday. That's after storms hit Tuesday and Wednesday in the ArkLaTex, and still plenty more storms over the next 3 days. There's that little hole and little gap in the wet weather between Sunday and Monday. Obviously, the ground's still going to be drenched, but if you need time to get outdoor activities done, if you want to set yourself a day, if you're looking forward to doing something on the weekend outside, Sunday is the better day to do it. All right, let's look at your full weather forecast here in the ArkLaTex. Coming up next, we'll take a look at how our rivers are doing, because we've gotten drenched over this past month with a good amount of wet weather, and unfortunately that has led to some flood warnings. Now, thankfully, I will go ahead and say it's gotten better, but it hasn't really fully reset itself yet. We'll take a look at what we're watching out for coming up after this. Welcome back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown. Again, I'm meteorologist Evan Thomason. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. More rain, obviously, in store. We went over the full forecast. There's plenty to go over with all the rain coming on by. Obviously, for me, myself, and you probably as well, you're looking forward to some sunshine back in store. Not only are you looking forward to it, but our rivers are looking forward to it. We have many rivers that are just running with very high flow at this point. Now, certainly, it was highest, I will say, back in early April. You remember that span of 4 First Alert weather days in a row? That's what triggered and jump-started Many flash flood warnings across the ArkLaTex, plenty of them, including a flash flood emergency issued. You remember that back in back for Texarkana as well. Again, that was 3 weeks ago. That kind of triggered a bulk of the flood warnings around. I think every single river possible around the ArkLaTex, quite frankly, was running under a flood warning and under high river levels. Now, thankfully, it has calmed down since then a great bit, but it still hasn't gotten fully back to normal, per se. Let's take a look at what we're looking at here on our river flood outlook. So what you're taking a look at now is the river gauge map brought to us by the National Weather Service. Now, first of all, any dot that you see is a river gauge measured by the National Weather Service. Major ones are in those squares. Minor ones are in those little tiny circles. If you see little tiny dots kind of sprinkled around the ArkLaTex. So obviously all this is pinpointed on a map. So let's get a good look at the ArkLaTex. Again, lots of green, which is exactly what you want to see. There's two troublesome spots, which we'll get to here in just a moment. But I do want to go over how this works. So let's take, for example, the Red River in Shreveport as an example. Let me get myself out of the way so you can view this full thing. What you're taking a look at here is the river level. Now, anything above that yellow, you can see my mouse on the screen right here. Anything in this yellow or above kind of indicates high river levels. Anything in the pink kind of pretty much indicates flooding, as in toppling over the river, which is a very, very rare instance and something we don't want to see at all. But thankfully, the river levels, at least for the Red River and Shreveport, all running even below the yellow bar, which is exactly what we want to see here at this rate. In fact, from the history of things, the river level has been steadily dropping here over the last 2 to 3 days, which is what this history indicates. The blue line here is now, essentially today. This purple line is the forecast, where it's supposed to go in days past today. And obviously, it's been raining a good bit over the past couple of days, so it looks like it's going to steadily increase here just a little bit. Not too worrisome, not too high, but indicate just over the increase over the next few days due to the rain. One other area that I want to go over that's actually good is area of Miller and Lafayette counties here. This is a look at the Red River at Springbank Ferry here in southwestern Arkansas. It's right where that yellow dot is there on your screen, right where my mouse is. Just barely into Arkansas, north of Caddo Parish in Louisiana. This was our most worrisome spot coming off of the first alert weather days 3 weeks ago, because we did hear about water legitimately topping over the river because of how high the river essentially is. Thankfully, looks like everything has been steadily decreasing since then, which is good to see. And this river actually does not have a forecast to it. This is just everything in the past, which is a steady drop, which is exactly what we want to see. Looks like it was even in the action phase recently, which is not surprising because of how extremely high it was when we began this 3 weeks ago. But this is steadily dropping here, which is actually a good sign to see, which is what we want to see. But there's two worrisome spots. Let's go to our two worrisome spots here in the ArkLaTex, which are causing flood warnings. The first of which is just outside of our region. Let's look at Angelina River near Lufkin. And you can see the river level here is in the yellow there, which means that it is under a flood warning, and it's running a little bit high at this rate. And it looks like even the forecast with this purple line still has it running higher due to rain in that area. More forecasted rain in the forecast. More rain coming into the river to make it even higher in the region. So it's nearing minor flood stage, which is essentially just a little bit of some high level river levels to watch out for along that river near Lufkin. Obviously, this is just so you know, to give you a perspective on where this is again. This is just to the south side of Nacogdoches, where we're watching out for. That's a flood warning for there. The one flood warning that we have actually in the ArkLaTex, this is the only flood warning we have, which is, good that we only have one, but it's still, I wouldn't say concerning, but a little worrisome here at this point. So what we have here is this is a flood warning for, I hope I don't mess this up, Bayou Budcow. at Bayou Bacau Lake. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. But anyways, you get the point. This bayou is in the flood stage, the minor flood stage, which is why it has a flood warning. Now, thankfully, it looks like the trend has been for it to drop, which is good news. And even the forecast, despite the rain coming in, the forecast still calls for this area to drop off its weather levels just a little bit heading into next week. Now, it's going to be a very slow drop-off, but the fact that it's trending in the right direction is always good news. And the forecast is trending in the right direction as well, which means it's also good news. But obviously, the river flood warning is still in effect there due to the high level. So that looks to be in portions of Bossier Parish. So watch out for that. Thankfully, again, that's the only river flood warning that we're seeing here at this rate, which is great news of all. Last thing I want to discuss here on top of all this is the red. You see these red squares right in here? That indicates even some river overtopping. That's on the Mississippi River. That is all on the Mississippi River from Natchez all the way up to Vicksburg to Greenville to the border between Arkansas and Mississippi. We're watching out for some flood issues around there because most of the flash flooding issues have been in areas of Kentucky, way further north. But the thing about Kentucky is most of this water has had to flow through the Mississippi River. And all the flash flooding issues from Kentucky with the stories that you've seen over the past 3 weeks or so, all of that water is now currently going through the Mississippi River, especially all the way down to Louisiana, where we have one big flood issue. That's a purple. That's a major flood stage to where we're seeing active flooding in that area. That's around Baton Rouge on the Mississippi River around there. So lots of raw water all funneling through the Mississippi River. Thankfully, local rivers, especially here in the ArkLaTex, including the Red River, which do funnel into the Mississippi River. All the rivers here locally are doing fine, but the river that's collecting all of this in the Mississippi River is not doing so fine. So that's kind of a look at what's going on here with the rivers all around the ArkLaTex. Just so you know, that's a little cool forecast the National Weather Service puts out each and every day. To help just keep track of the water levels, obviously, because could be flooding in some substantial areas. In the case of earlier this month, we had flash flooding issues all across southwestern Arkansas, Miller, and Lafayette counties with the literal river, Red River, overtopping in some areas, which is extremely dangerous. Anyways, that's a look at your first solar weather breakdown. That's our content here for the day today. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back on tomorrow for one more episode. We do this first solar weather breakdown each and every single weekday at 10:30. We got one more weekday left for us to do this. 10:30 on Friday. Tomorrow we'll be looking at your weekend travel forecast, which unfortunately could be looking pretty rainy. Essentially, we don't just take a look at what's happening in the ArkLaTex. We take a look at what's happening outside, regionally around the ArkLaTex. If you're going to Dallas, if you're going to Little Rock, you're going to Jackson, you're going to New Orleans, wherever you're hopping off to, we give you a forecast regionally outside of the ArkLaTex, which unfortunately could feature more rain. We'll take a look at it thoroughly here tomorrow. Again, a regional forecast that will be on Friday's edition of First Solar Weather Breakdown at 10:30. I will see you then. Be there, be square, and most importantly, be weather aware. Have a great rest of your day. Keep that umbrella handy, please. Sorry about the rain, but we can get through it. I'll talk to you later. See you tomorrow.